Right. Too much or too little? Know when enough is enough. And this is a question that I get asked all the time. The more that I see things on the internet, the more furious I become because so many people out there are getting misled with misinformation. And you would think at this point, with all the predecessors in the natural industries, that we would have figured out that you do not need to um, recreate the wheel, that there's always already been very healthy people who've lived very healthy lives and long lives, and following their steps and learning from some of their mistakes is really what we should be doing. So, too much and too little theory, and this can be applied to everything. So, the things that you want to think about are your exercise, your sleep, massage pressures, which I get asked a lot, any type of massages, supplementation, food, alcohol, sun, work, and everything else. Everything applies to this theory, too much or too little. Why? So here's the big question, and this is going to go into some biochemistry. So, Hanselier, with his stress theory of disease, the autonomic nervous system has a sympathetic and a parasympathetic, and I'm going to keep this fairly simple. And at this point, you've heard this from so many people, but this has been around for a very long time. Most naturopaths work off of these principles. You either have a fight, flight, or freeze, or a rest and digest. Now, your fight, flight, and freeze is dominated and driven by sodium and potassium levels. That should say driven. Your heart rate increases, your respiratory rate increases, blood pressure and pupil dilation. And it's because you are getting ready to run. Something is happening. Now, say there's no tiger chasing you, or you didn't just get almost hit by a deer. Say it's a noxious fume from sitting inside an office space and having somebody paving outside and it's coming through the ventilation. Say it's a supplementation that came from a country that had no standards of processing and they put something in there that's harmful to your system. A virus, a bacteria, some type of emotional distress, anything. Hans Selye proved this. Anything does this to your body. So let's go back to that too much or too little. Anything does this to your body. If you get too much stimuli, you will go into a fight or flight. You will increase your heart rate, your respiratory rate, your blood pressure, and your pupil dilation. It will decrease your digestion, urine production. And what does that mean? Constipation, right? Lack of kidneys function. So there's that sodium potassium driven. So go to the other side, parasympathetic. And everybody is trying to get into the parasympathetic state. And by trying to get into the parasympathetic state, what are you doing? You're creating stress for yourself. So we need to take a step back for a moment and revisit our ancestors' teachings and start to take them a little bit more serious and think that they were the first ones to create these because they had nothing to stress them out. And so they can bring us all the way back down to the roots of the tree. There were no cell phones, there was no media, you really were living in a very, very simple time. So they are our roots. We need to respect them. Parasympathetic is your rest and digest. It's your digestion. It decreases everything that sodium, potassium increases. And what is it driven by? Calcium and magnesium, which is why everybody says we need more calcium, magnesium. No, no. If you are stressed all the time, and I was just looking at somebody who's anti-aging out the wazoo, which is stressful just watching it, like somebody trying to stay young. It's stressful. What you do is you increase your sodium potassium levels to the point where you deplete them and they're gone. Now, you don't have them anymore, but what do? Did you ever put a shell or a piece of glass into the ocean? Leave it there for 5 years and see what you come out with. It's gotten worn down by the salt in the ocean. And that is the shell, and I should use a shell rather than a piece of glass, but a piece of glass is, got silica and all the other stuff in it. But if you use a shell, shells are made of calcium. And so sodium, potassium needs to be in the system to break down calcium and magnesium in the system. Those are hard minerals. These are soft minerals, sodium, potassium. They both need each other. They are married together. So in a really wonderful position, you lift up with sodium, potassium, and then you come down with calcium, magnesium. And that's how your whole day should be. And so when we look at biochemistry, we're looking at the balance of those four minerals. And we're trying to say, these four minerals aren't balanced. Nothing is going to be balanced. And today we're talking about why too much and too little can actually make this happen in your system. So, with that said, we're going to look at my little model. I made this. This is based on my opinion and my experiences, just so that we don't get any confusion here. But the stress response, and I just talked a little bit about it, but here is what I explain to clients. So your sodium potassium build up from your stressors. So sometimes the first thing we see is higher levels of sodium potassium in the system. You may not see that if you did a hair mineral analysis, but you may come in a little later from symptoms due to the adverse effects of that stress. Then it depletes down and you go into adrenal burnout. Your sodium potassium levels go out. By the way, calcium, magnesium are very much involved with thyroid function, sodium, potassium, and adrenal function. So therefore, they work together. There's no separating out the C's there. So calcium has no ability to stay in solution once sodium, potassium deplete. It is now not able to be dissolved and give the body what it needs in calcium function and calcium absorption. It is in a harder state. And this is where it starts to get a little bit dangerous because calcium, magnesium are going to start to coat those 28 to 32 billion cells you have everywhere. Remember, it's not just your heart, it's not just your venous system, it's not just your calculi and your kidneys, it's everywhere. Every cell in your body is going to start to have this problem with not being able to get the calcium through the shell. And then the sodium potassium can't pump properly. So now you're in even a deeper hole because now your sodium potassium can't get through the calcium shell to break it down anymore because it's not there because you have completely depleted it. So your muscle, heart, kidneys, adrenals are going to be the first to get depleted. And then calcium is going to start to deposit into the soft tissue due to the poor function and elimination. The sodium potassium can't move out, the calcium shell can't get broken down. So the objective is to keep calcium in solution. So how do we do that? And this is part of the whole program. This is all for you to stay healthy because it is now time to share everything. So I am trying to help people get themselves physically balanced before they start their program, right? Trying to get you to balance because somewhere in the line, you've created this stress response and you have been unable to stay balanced in so many different respects. And your body is showing that now. So you can't even walk on a balanced straight line, let alone start a fitness program with a straight body. So now we're going to start to dig a little deeper. So we're going to wrap it up, and this looks a little messy. Sorry about that. I did this really quick. So you are an individual. No one on the planet is exactly like you. So there's nobody that's ever going to be able to tell you exactly what you're feeling inside your body. Do not take somebody's advice as it were you. You can take advice and then you can apply it to the way that you feel and make deductions from it. But don't use it as a solid word. It's not going to be indicative to you. My biochemistry is very different than many other people's biochemistry. So I have to listen to myself. I have to think about my past and things that I liked and disliked, things that I loved running short distance. I hated running long distances. Those are keys and very important points that you're going to be able to make deductions from. But with that said, exercise is number one. That's about behind that about. So people ask me all the time, how much should I exercise? Well, I don't know. How much do you think you can exercise? I know how much I can exercise, but that doesn't mean I know how much you can exercise. So the mindset that I can tell you that you need to realistically have a commitment that works for you. Now, we're talking about common sense here. When you start your day or that program, so say you start my program that we're going to be doing today, and you say, I can't get past the first 2 minutes. I'm too tired. That's enough. You're done. Walk away from it. And the next time, if you can't get up to that point, then you're done then. Your body is going to tell you when enough is enough. And it will give you back you want to, as long as you start to have some consistency to trying to help it. And that's where it starts to get even more complicated, right? So you're increasing naturally when your form is still absolute and you feel that you're able to, but then you're going to decrease the duration and the time and the repetition. So that's getting really detailed into exercise. So let me use a person in a really bad situation and a person in a normal situation. So I'm working with a client who has hasn't worked out probably since they were 20 years old, and they're 60 now. They have knee problems, hip problems. They have difficulty even getting up off the couch. Am I going to tell that person to stand up and do my exercise program right now? Absolutely not. I'm going to say, start in a seated position and try to do some of the movements that we're doing. And eventually, you're going to start to build enough strength where we're going to hope that you're going to be able to stand up and do this. But until then, you're going to try to build that program. Now, if this person can realistically say, I can commit to doing this every single day because I'm not working or I have time, after work or before work, I don't have as big of a schedule. I'm going to say, well, if you're going to do that, make sure that you stop when your body tells you to stop. Don't go and start with 2 hours of exercise every single day of the week. Do 5 minutes of exercise every day of the week. Because every day of the week to do something is something, if you haven't been doing it for a long time, is going to be really foreign to your body. Somebody who has been in the industry and working out with people every day is going to think nothing of it. But somebody who hasn't been working out for 40 years, that's a lot for your body to handle. So make sure that you really think about, and I'll tell people, every day's a lot. If you want to do something movement wise, that's fantastic. But remember that, you want to stick to this commitment, and it's easier to build the commitment than start too big and then take days off and then fall off the pattern. Now, once you do get started and say you're in a normal place and you say, well, I know I can do this 3 times a week. And I'm like, great. Pick those 3 times a week and try to keep them fairly consistent. Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever you feel that your schedule can do. And then do the workout to the best of your ability. If you can get through this first one, might be 15 minutes. If you can get through the first 15-minute workout and it looks terrible, that's fine. You did it and you're working on it. But you want to work on trying to get that workout so that it is very balanced in the way that you are executing those movements. Once you feel that you have really good balance and that you're doing this well, then you can increase the way that you either the weight or um, maybe a little bit of time. Time is another element. There's so many complications in this, but I'm going to go through these in each one of these videos. Weight's usually where people find that they want to increase on. And when you increase on weight, you have to really make sure you decrease on everything else because now you're giving more application to your body that has never had it before. And so we have to think that the body's not going to be able to handle this stressor for very long, or we're going to go into that stress response. See how it all starts to wrap up? So that's exercise. And it's probably the more complicated because it is like so, it's got so many different sides to it. Sleeping. Sleeping disengages your deep core muscles, which are really important. We're going to go over postural muscles today, or um, whenever you're watching this, I have a video on postural muscles at the beginning of the series. So those are also disengaged because they're gravity driven. So you don't want to do too much or too little of that either. Now, so many people don't get enough sleep, maybe on purpose. I'm not sure, like if you just are working a lot and you just don't sleep enough, you're not well rested during your sleep due to stress responses in other areas, or you're getting too much rest. You're sitting down for too long, you're sleeping for too long. That can do just as much damage. So neither are right. There is a sweet spot in there, and you'll know it when you wake yourself up and you're well rested. You may need an alarm clock, but when you get up, you feel great. And those are things. And again, it's very much the same for different for everybody. You think back to, you when you were younger, how well you slept. You may be driven more by sodium potassium biochemistry, where your body doesn't sleep as well as somebody who is driven by a calcium magnesium biochemistry. And that is very much true. There are fast and slow oxidation types. So you should never feel stressed and pain during a massage. And I'm bringing this up being a therapist because I was just asked this. It will initiate a stress response. And when I have clients that come in from other therapists, I know immediately if the therapist has been doing their due diligence with proper technique or if they're working too hard, too fast into a client. Remember, tissue has to be warmed up well before it's driven into, and the drive can only go as deep as the tissue is going to allow you to work on. If the person is a loaded calcium person, they're going to not give up the ability for you to drive in to get into deeper tissue. Don't force it. It will give you the stress response. You will start to feel everything tighten up. And if you're the therapist watching this, or if you're the client watching this, do not tell somebody to go deeper because what they're going to do is if they know what they're doing, they're already trying to warm the tissue up to get flow to it and to get blood into those areas to be able to smooth that tissue out and remodel it. If they don't know that, then all they're going to do is dig in deeper and they're going to end up damaging something, either damaging superficial tissue with bruising, or they're going to damage you by the stress response and make it more and more difficult for you to actually get worked on. It's just like exercise. It's a training process of the body to be able to accept massage therapy that's very therapeutic. It has to be done gradual. I tell people 8 sessions minimally before a therapist can really be able to identify what some of the deeper layers are doing. And that's really very, that's like a therapist who's very advanced. Somebody who's not may take 6 months with you, especially if you're not coming in on a weekly or a biweekly pattern. Anything more than a monthly, you're probably hurting your therapist as much as you're hurting yourself. Remember, they are as important to you in their structure because they're needed to help create this fluidity that we were talking about and the symmetry with muscles. So we want to take care of them by doing our due diligence and not leaving too much time in between those sessions so that they're having to do so much warm up and so much work to get that muscle pliable. So with that said, we'll go on to supplementation. And this is another big one. Oh, Jen, what about this? And Jen, what about that? Listen, if you don't have a balanced 4 macro minerals that I just explained, nothing is getting assimilated properly. It doesn't matter what you take, it's going in one end and out the other. So you need to have good assimilation, which means you have to have the proper levels of sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium working for that digestive tract to really be able to assimilate. So with that said, fix that biochemistry first. And if you don't want to do supplementation, that's fantastic. I actually do have a company that part of my company is just doing detoxification through wraps and salt treatments with tub soaking and things like that. You can do that. I'll go through that as well for people. You can do that at home. The one thing that you probably do want to find out is your biochemistry, because that you're going to have to do with a hair analysis. So remember that every element taken is going to affect two or more other elements, and that's crucial for cellular healing. So don't just start like popping things into the blender and saying, oh, yeah, this is good for that and this is good for that. It doesn't work that way. And if you look at an herbal list and you pick out one herb, you may find that herb being doing things for 5 to 10 other, uh, I'll say for a matter of fact, dysfunctions, meaning things that are not going well for you that might be symptomatic. And they're doing it differently in each respect. One might be doing it in a detoxification manner. One might be neutralizing in its ability to work with another herb. And one might be building. And then in the next type of symptom, it's doing the opposite. And supplementation does the same thing. Whereas magnesium may help one person, it may make another person not feel good. So again, you have to listen to your body, and your body's going to tell you very quickly if you need those things or not. But like I said, go back to the roots. This stuff is all learned from people from a time period where all they did was work, go home, and do other things. There was no extra stimuli to their work. So it's very, very potent and effective. If you think you eat and drink too much, and I don't mean drink water, but drinking water is another one, alcohol, you probably do. Make small adjustments and goals, and do not stress out about drinking enough water during the day because everybody is different. That's another stressor, constantly drinking water, because what does that do? But dilute down your sodium potassium levels. So again, if you have been one of those people who has like these cycles of drinking water, then that's probably who you are. And everybody is different. Some people need to have more water than others. Again, sodium potassium levels are going to be different. But don't stress out about making these adjustments. Quitting cold turkey is never a goo. It's a goo option. It's never a good option for anything. So, um, if you think you need to quit cold turkey to do it, then your chances are of you going back to it are probably going to be greater than not. So small changes and adapting and understanding the adaptation principle to the body is going to be really important. So your body adapts and compensates with all of these little innuendos of change. So good or bad, if you do something that if you start to drink too much coffee, your body's going to adapt and compensate because of the adrenal high that's going on with that caffeine. It's going to start to adapt and compensate to make changes because you're taking that in. So as you start taking it out, you're going to start to see those. You're going to get tired easier. Some people get headaches. So don't do it that way. Now, I have all kinds of little tricks to help people with this so that you're not doing cold turkey things and that you're letting the body gradually let go. And as it gradually lets go, it's going to naturally detoxify. Everybody's talking about detoxification. Your body naturally detoxifies every day. It has 6 elimination organs to do it, right? Let's see if I can do these. Your whole skin system, which is the largest one, your colon in the mouth, out the rear end. There's a good detox for you. Your liver, constantly detoxifying, cleaning taking the food in and processing and then cleaning the blood as well. The kidneys, through the amount of blood that goes through the kidneys is amazing. And then that's a huge detoxifier. Kidneys are fragile, so they're not as easy to reproduce themselves. The lymph system, which is why massage and any massage works, the lymph system is so fantastic. But the lymph is constantly being moved in massage, but also in hot to cold. So a warm shower coming out into a cold bathroom is going to dump the lymph system a little bit because it's going to contract. And what's the last one? The lungs. Now everybody's been like crazy with lungs with post-COVID and blah, 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 but your lungs need to be worked. So you need to have some type of cardiovascular that is going to be working to get those lungs to pump. But also when you're working in your exercises, calisthenics are fantastic because they can allow a lot of lung expansion and contraction. So there is your six elimination organs of detox. So you detox every day, and the more good you put in, the more detoxification is going to occur on a good level. And that's what we're going to strive for. We're not going to strive for trying to figure out every new notable way of detoxifying the body. It's not rocket science. There are very simple ways to detoxify all the time. And one of them is exercise, and one of them is sleeping, and one of them is showering and bathing, which are spa techniques. And one of them is massage. One of them is eating healthy and drinking good, uh, pure liquids. So we can see that, where we're going to with this. This is free, free to you. You don't have to pay anybody to do it. So the last thing is the same thing with sun, fun, work, and everything else. Balance is the key. Being proactive rather than preventative is really an important thing too. I got that just from something that I read the other day. And proactive is just meaning that you're striving to be the best you can be all the time and moving towards a healthier and longer life. Where preventative is expecting a disease and trying to ward it off, which means we're premeditating that we're already going to be sick. And we don't want to premeditate being sick at all. We want to be thinking about being healthy and alive. And so the proactivity and doing these the simple things that I'm giving to you are going to help you be very much proactive. Now, I'll read this and I'll say one more thing. Since change is the only constant in life, and that's one of my favorite little blurbs to say to people, then life every day is going to be a different day, right? Because what you did today is going to now be a little bit more of a constant for your body, and your body's going to say, well, let's adapt and compensate and change. And so tomorrow is going to be different. And so you want to live your life daily and with good intention. And when you do that regularly, you're going to find that every time you walk into the gym, your workout is going to be respondent to the way that you feel that day. And if you don't feel good, you're going to do different things. You may feel like, you know what, I'm going to do a lying workout today because I'm not feeling great and I'm tired. Or I'm just going to, take it easy and just not do anything at all and let my body rest, and we're good. And there you go. So that's wrapping it up. And I'll talk to you soon.